Falcon, Brave New World. Well, I don't know about the brave part, nor do I even necessarily know about the new part, because on the one hand, absolutely it is new in the fact that all of the popular, good and interesting characters that made the Marvel Cinematic Universe what it is today are all gone. That is certainly new, and they have been near universally, or let's be honest here, have universally been replaced by lesser versions of themselves. Less interesting, less popular, and less just effective overall. So, in that sense, it is new, but is it a new world? Does it bring to mind a freshness and rejuvenation of a new continent to explore? Not really, unless we're thinking mortuary world, in which case I am fully on board, as this movie, it has the stink of the grave on it. This feels like Marvel's cold, dank tomb that the cinematic universe has finally moved into to crawl up and die inside of. Okay. The key of all of this is that we're trying to get the Falcon to be Captain America. He got a movie alongside Steve Rogers where it was kind of hinted at what he was going to do, and that didn't really feel right. Then he got actually given the shield at the end of the Big Avengers finale, and that too was like, okay, that's a bit forced, but at least Steve Rogers gets a nice send-off, right? Then he gets an entire television show to try to establish himself as Captain America. And it too is just like, you're not him, mate. You're just not. This isn't working. And now he gets another movie which constantly goes, hey, do you know this guy's Captain America? Wow, everybody recognizes him as such, and you should too. Like, but he's not. In the very first fight of the movie, he's getting his ass kicked by some random henchman with a pair of tiny knives. He's not Captain America. It doesn't work. You can't force this. Now, following on in Steve Rogers' footprints was always going to be a tall order for literally anyone, but this guy just doesn't work. You have to give up on this. I'm sorry. I know you had a whole plan laid out for this, but it doesn't work. And especially not in a movie like this. Now, this movie is a weird one because, normally I come back from watching one of these and I have some sort of emotion, right? Napoleon, deep-seated disappointment and general hatred, for example. But with this one, it wasn't even that bad, and it wasn't good. It's like an amorphous blob. Like there's no tactile resistance there. I don't feel like I've been to a movie. If it weren't for the fact that I have a small bucket of fried pig greasy thing dogs, I wouldn't even know, really. It's mercifully short, but that even more so just makes it feel like a random episode of a television series rather than a movie. And the casting. One of the few memorable things about the movie, beyond the occasional dumbass nitpick, like, for example, the first black Captain America turning to Falcon and going, Captain America shouldn't listen to the president. Okay, that was weird. Or the fact that his shield apparently reflects bullets back at the shooters now. Or, well, it does so once. Precisely once, and then never again, because presumably somebody raised their hand and went, Vibranium doesn't work like that. And in fact, if Vibranium did work like that, then the very first time the Red Hulk hits the Falcon's shield, it should turn him, the Falcon, into a red stain on the pavement, but details. The casting. Okay, so we have the leader, who doesn't look anything like himself at all. He looks like a mutated Mr. Potato Head. And not to mention, the leader, really, there's a D-class villain for a C-class hero, which I suppose is fitting, but really? The Red Hulk is the president of the United States, which, this is very subtle, mind you, but the president is bad. He's violating international law and agreements. He's a bad person. And once everybody realizes that he can turn a different color and become an even badder bad person, he resigns and goes to jail. Wow. That's a subtle reference indeed right there. And I can only imagine that was even more subtle in the apparently hour or so they cut out of this movie, as one of the few vivid memories I have beyond Sabra not looking like we neared the end of the movie when I heard her name and it finally like, oh, that's supposed to be Sabra. I was wondering when she would arrive because she looks nothing like herself in the slightest, but details. What was I even on about? I am forgetting my train of thought. That is how utterly, remarkably forgettable this movie was. Help me. Anyways, yes, so the movie received severe cutages. Supposedly, I've heard rumors that this was the 4th or 5th cut of the movie that was finally released to the public. And it feels like it, because there'll be a scene which ends, and you're like, okay, but what happened then? Surely you're going to continue that scene because you kind of just left it in the middle of doing something. What happened then? And you're on to something else. And then that scene just kind of ends and you're on to something else. You're like, what's happening? What's going on now? It's weirdly cut in a very disjointed way that feels like they took like a 3.5 hour story and squeezed it down into 1 hour 30 minutes or so. And to be fair, in their honor, in their glory, it doesn't feel as disjointed as it could have been, so whatever fat they trimmed must have been significant indeed, and of the very, very fatty tissue variety that has very little to do with the actual overall plot. So that's nice, at least, if nothing else, but like the entire thing, it's remarkable. It's like it had no touch, no feel to it. It left no impression on me almost whatsoever. Again, you can say some mean things about cape flicks, but they usually at least leave some kind of impression behind. Whether it be cool action scenes, or good music, or good one-liners. This movie, okay. Fair is fair. It had one good one-liner, quote unquote, which is where Falcon is talking to his sidekick, and he's like, "This is a really dangerous mission, sidekick. You don't have to come along with me." And sidekick turns to him and goes, "I know. That's what makes it so touching that I'm going to." Okay. Good one. That one was actually quite good. That was a nice little, like, fourth wall breaky thing. It added in a little bit like, oh yeah, that's why. Because he's coming off his own free will, even though it's dangerous. That one was nice, but if in your grand movie, the 4th Captain America movie, quote unquote, the most memorable individual is the sidekick, you've done something wrong, or mistimed it severely. If you'd done this to Falcon, perhaps we would be a bit more open with using him as the main character now, but he just isn't Captain America. He gets his ass kicked by random goons. He has no gravitas and weight on scene. He doesn't... Steve Rogers, for all of the fault of the Captain America movies, I hated the shit out of the first one, didn't like the rest much either, but at the very least, he felt like Captain. He behaved like him. He had his aura. The Falcon doesn't. And when everybody tries to treat him as they would Steve Rogers, it adds in an immediate mental disconnect in your mind that pulls you right out of the already threadbare situation and plot that you are witnessing on screen. And the even bigger problem is, where the hell do they even go from here? So they bring up the whole, giant thing, monster, celestial, whatever, from those other terrible movies, and okay, they find adamantium, neat. What are you gonna do with it? Well, there's an international treaty now, and there's some drama around it, okay, but what heroes do you have now? What's the next big bad? What's the threat? What's going on? Falcon gets given the task of rebuilding the Avengers. Okay, with who? Who's left? What are you gonna do? it feels like the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe has just ran out of steam now, and is tottering along, puttering away on the remnants of its glory, like a pathetic old man living out the last glorious memories of his youth by drowning his sorrows in every bottle he can get his hands on. It's tragic, is what it is. Like, everything from the run length of the movie, which is on the one hand blissfully short, and on the other a seeming admission that they didn't have much to work with, to the villains like the leader and Red Hulk, which pops up for the last 5 minutes and is basically just like, hey, you know what? The president's a bad dude. Like, okay, I get ya. I understand. And he goes to jail at the end of it because he broke the law. Oh, pretty nice. And in all of this is the Falcon again, acting like the Falcon, carrying somebody else's shield. There's even, oh god, there's even another scene. I think we've had 3 of these scenes now over the course of the TV series and the movies where he's standing there and he's like, wow, you know, Steve Rogers, he stopped like 3 alien invasions. I could never measure up to that guy. And another character comes along like, no, that's not true. You're totally the best captain. We all believe in you. Why'd you feel the urge to tell us about that again and again then? You didn't have to do this with Steve Rogers. That wasn't a problem, but now you feel the urge to do so every time he's on screen, pretty much. Hey, I don't see where Marvel is going to go from here. I mean, even with the whole Kang thing, that was supposedly like the big bad they were setting up, but I don't think that's gonna go anywhere either right now. No, not at all. And oh god, what was that awful movie with the retired superheroes? I don't even remember the name of that one. That one too ended, The Eternals or something like that? That also ended as an enormous flop and will not be continued either, so I guess we're at a dead end here, and the studio had simply already put so much money into shooting this thing that they had to push it out somehow. Well, it's there. You know, the most intriguing part of all this, you know what I'm looking forward to seeing now? I am looking forward to seeing how DC manages to destroy this opportunity that they're being handed. Their primary competitor is at their absolute weakest point in decades. I'm gonna see how DC, and they always do, manage to screw this up. That's what I'm excited for right now. I am bracing myself for the next Superman movie, or a continuation of Batman, because I want to see how they could possibly go more subterranean than Falcon Brave New World. In case I've somehow been as subtle as its references to bad presidents, this is not a good movie. I would not recommend watching it. I wouldn't even recommend watching it or downloading it to laugh at it when it finally releases on a wider spectrum. I wouldn't even recommend watching this if you could get a hold of it for free. You wouldn't even be upset by it. You would simply exist for an hour and a half, staring blankly at a screen, wondering to yourself why you're not working on a novel, or building a house, or starting a family, or watching paint dry. Literally any other activity is likely to be far more productive and a better use of your time overall than Falcon Brave New World. Until next time, I'm in Arch. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.